And Ms. Aney, you indicate that Ms. Pearson came down from her home in Tacoma to your apartment in Olympia at about 12:30 in the evening on August 3rd, and at some point you also had your tires flattened, which you suspect is Ms. Pearson's doing, but you don't know that. Is that accurate?
Technically, I don't know it. I didn't see her do it. I have evidence of her doing it, but I don't have any other enemies. And that evening, I had literally parked at a park and ride, like a down the street from the hotel, where her husband was staying, the man I've been seeing. And we overheard her say something about a park and ride on some security camera footage. And so I immediately left to go get my car and discovered that both the tires on the driver's side of my vehicle had been flattened. At that point is when I was told that she had done that to his vehicle before as well. I didn't report it at the time because I was assured nothing like that would happen again because they were getting a divorce and he would be leaving. And he's kind of gone back and forth, of course. And this most recent incident, ever since then, I've been feeling like anytime I go to leave my house, I had to install cameras and I have to regularly check them to see if she's been by my place to do anything else to my vehicle or come up to my apartment. I can't sleep at night sometimes thinking that she might be getting off work and driving all the way down here. Um, and so then I reviewed my camera footage and saw the footage that you've now seen of her coming in. She immediately gets out of the car, squats down next to the rear passenger side of my tire. You hear a clunk sound, and then she gets back in the car and later comes and walks around my apartment before leaving. So knowing she's been tracking him without his knowledge, I had no choice but to assume she might have been attempting or succeeded in placing a tracking device on my car. So I had to do something to protect myself because she's not leaving me alone. It seems to be escalating.
Okay.
The little bit of context, I met her husband on a dating app. He presented himself as single. We were dating for more than 6 months before I found out that he was married and living with her. And he was telling me that he was getting a divorce. He was leaving. It was just a matter of, deciding on what was going to happen with the assets and the house and all of that. It was just a matter of time. Each time I've spoken to him, it's been a mutual decision between the two of us. And I'd also like to state I have never been to her house uninvited.
All right. So when was the last time you believe that you've had an appearance by Ms. Pearson or any contact?
I think it was the incident that I captured her on camera. I've reviewed all my footage every single day, every minute since then, and I haven't seen anything. I also have had multiple people tear apart my car and under my vehicle, to include a police officer, and nothing was discovered. But I still am, right now, I just feel like we just haven't found it, that she might still be tracking me.
And you said you spoke with her the following day and she acknowledged having been there, but said she didn't do anything wrong.
I didn't speak with her. She blocked her phone number to call me because I have her blocked, and she left a voicemail. Because when I found the video footage, that was the one time when I was blocking my number and called her husband over and over and over again until I got him to answer and tell him, I just saw footage of your wife coming to my apartment and doing something to my car. Yes, I think that's the last time that she's been there, though.
Okay, so that was a voicemail that she left saying, yeah, I was there, but I didn't do anything wrong.
Yes, that's a voicemail she left. I apologize. Yes.
Okay. Ms. Pearson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead. And let me just say, I'm a little concerned here. You both are under oath. Ms. Aney has accused you of a crime. It's malicious mischief. And it sounds like I don't know that there's a case number here. I have no idea what the status of that is by way of investigation, whether it's ongoing or whether it's dropped. I have no idea. But you run the risk if that ever gets charged, anything you say here could be used against you, and it's a sworn statement. So I want you to know that before you tell me anything at all regarding this. You have the right to say, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. So I won't. If there was a risk of this actually being charged, I'm confident that if you had an attorney, the attorney would say nothing at all. That would be the advice of the attorney today. But that's up to you. I just want you to know ahead of time. Anything you say here, the prosecutor could subpoena, get a copy of it, and use it against you if you are criminally charged with any of the actions that Ms. Zaney has accused you of. Okay,
Yes.
do you have any question about that?
No, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Anything you want to say?
The time in question, the incident that happened where I drove to her home, was a single event. It was an incident that was due to severe emotional distress. It was the end of 18 months worth of this woman seeing my husband who says he wants to save our marriage. We're trying to save our marriage. A year ago, when he told me about the affair, I sent Miss Amy an email telling her that we were trying to work on and save our marriage, and asking her to please stay away and allow us that time to work on our marriage. And, I know it's a mutual thing. Her and my husband continued to see each other over the last year. But I would like to preface that with saying that my husband's been in active addiction the entire time. And when I said vows, I said in sickness and in health. And addiction is an illness. And so I have stood by his side and going to counseling, have him in counseling. We have him 3 weeks in recovery right now. And he says with every day he's becoming clearer. And so again, we're trying to save our marriage. But that night in question, he was still in active addiction. And it was the day following, a day that she came to our house, picked him up, and they went to the woods somewhere near our house to have sex. And at that time, he ended up breaking things off with her. So I feel like she's retaliating. But I did drive down there and I went in the middle of the night when I wouldn't interact with her, just out of curiosity, wondering what is so special about this woman that my husband's willing to throw away 25 years of our life together. We've raised a family. We have a home. We've created this amazing life together. And I wanted to know what was so special about her that he was willing to throw it all away. So I went down, and when I was flustered, I got out of my car. My phone fell. So I got down on my knees. I got my phone out from underneath her car. And then I looked back at her apartment, and I walked around and I looked at her balcony, and I thought, how many times did the two of them sit on that balcony together? And I saw the air conditioning in her window, and I thought, did he do that for her? Did he go and do handyman things for her, put an air conditioner in her window? And then I prayed and I released it, and I got in my car and I came home.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Thank
not
you, Ms.
asking the court to excuse the behavior. I know going there was wrong, but it was at the end of a year that has been the hardest year of my life, fighting for my marriage.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Ms. Zaney, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, a couple of things. That wasn't the first time she's been to my house. The officers asked how she knew where I lived, and I let them know it was because she was tracking
We lost you there.
him
Audio.
without his knowledge at one point.
Okay, so start that over again. Your audio broke up, so come
Sorry
back
about
again.
that. It wasn't the first time that she's been to my home. She's been there a few times. I've been told, like, the officers asked me how she knew where I lived, and I let them know that it was because she was tracking him without his knowledge. One of the times when they, to my knowledge or my understanding, they had decided on divorce and she followed him to my place. She had been there more than once, told him about having seen me get out of my car with my bag and walk up to my apartment. She's been there several times. And again, they live all the way up in Tacoma, like on the Puyallup end of Tacoma. She's leaving work in the middle of the night to drive all the way down here, or sometimes in the middle of the day. And like I said, back in June, when he was staying at a hotel because they were divorcing, he had been there for weeks. She came looking for my car, knowing that he had been through the parking ride because she was following him or tracking him, and came over, found my car, and lowered my and deflated my tires. If it weren't for all the bells and whistles on my vehicle, I could have been in a serious accident, harmed myself or someone else going down the interstate. And so once I knew for sure, and I had video footage of her coming to my apartment again, I feel like there's no end. There's nothing to stop her, short of a court order, which is why we're here today. But that was not the first time. It wasn't the only time she's been to my apartment. Also, I don't know what it was that she was going to figure out about the woman that he was going to leave her for by wandering around my apartment or reaching or doing something to or under my vehicle. That doesn't line up with the story as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor,
Just a second. And Ms. Annie, has Ms. Pearson ever come to your workplace?
Not that I know of, but like I said, I'm not 100% confident that she's not tracking my vehicle, which means that she would know everywhere I work and go.
Okay, but that's not been an issue with her coming to your workplace.
Not that I know of, no.
And Ms. Pearson, you said you had one last thing you wanted to say.
yes. That is the only time I've been to Miss Annie's apartment. I got the address off of my husband's phone on his maps. Yes, I had a tracker on my husband's car, which he knew about, and it was related to his ongoing addiction. He knew about this tracker because he would take it off and hide it at the gym when he would go to meet up with Miss Annie. So this is something that my husband can even vouch for, the fact that he knew about that tracker. And the tracker was specifically because of his addiction, and it was something we had agreed to. When I bought it, brought it in the house and showed it to him. I just, and in reference to the flattened tires, I did not flatten Miss Annie's tires. And a week later, my own tires went flat at work. But I'm not accusing her of that. This is something I don't know that she did. I got a glitter bomb sent to me in the mail. These are things I don't have proof of. I can't accuse her of. But to me, it feels like insult to injury. Not only are you sleeping with my husband, but then it feels like, well, again, I can't prove this. You're taking digs at me as well. And now filing a harassment order against me for a single incident, which again, I went in the middle of the night, so I would have no interaction with her. I did not touch her property, her belongings. I did not threaten her. And at one point, she's actually asking for immediate weapon surrender. I'm flabbergasted, I guess, with the fact that this woman is making herself the victim when she has been actively pursuing my husband even after I told her that we were working on our marriage. And the June hotel, I had him move out of the house into a hotel because of relapse. Not because of him leaving me for her. I asked him to move out of the house because he had relapsed. And to me, it risks our marriage, it risks my health. And I told him, I can't watch him kill himself. I can't be the one who has to go and tell our son, his mother, his father, that he has killed himself because of his addiction. So that's why I had him move out. He didn't move out to go be with her. And then he asked to come home. He said he wanted sobriety and he wanted our marriage. And he came home, and that's what we're working on right now. So I have no intention of ever interacting with Miss Amy. If anything, a protection order, I would hope, would keep her away from my own home and keep her out of my life.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pearson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. All right. Well, this is troubling for both of you. It's very clear to me. And it is a very, awkward, and awkward is probably not a really good description of it, but it is a very awkward situation. And you both feel emotionally hurt, and I can understand that from the perspective of both of you. I do think your actions, Ms. Pearson, in coming down late at night, which is typically a time when bad things happen, to Ms. Aney's home and wandering around and going through the emotional surveillance that you told us you were going through that night. I think that was, as you recognized, totally inappropriate. And that, in my mind, is going to be enough for me to enter a protection order in this case to make sure that that doesn't happen again in the future. So you're to have no contact with Ms. Aney. You're not to go within 1,000 feet of her property, her vehicle, or her home. So Ms. Aney, this will be in effect for 1 year from today's date. If you want it renewed, you'll have to come back to court and ask for it to be renewed. Now, I did review the temporary order that I believe Judge Meyer had initially entered. And it said that you were not to go within 1,000 feet of Ms. Aney's workplace, Ms. Pearson. It didn't say anything about her vehicle, which is why I was asking the questions I did. I've changed the order. The order is you're not to go within 1,000 feet of Ms. Aney's vehicle and not go within 1,000 feet of her residence. I did not put the workplace on there since Ms. Aney told me that isn't an issue that has surfaced in this case. Now, regardless, you're still not to have any contact with Ms. Aney or go within 1,000 feet of her. So that, of course, would include when she's at work. So, but I wanted to be clear. This order is somewhat different than the temporary order that Judge Meyer entered. So I want both parties to be aware of that. And Ms. Pearson, you can reach out to the court to get a copy of that order.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
I want to make sure that this does not affect my right to own firearms.
I have not made any order on firearms. I've not heard any testimony about the use or display of firearms. I've not made any order about firearms.
Thank you. Does that also protect Miss Amy from coming to my residence?
I've not ordered Ms. Aney in this case to do anything. She's heard what you've said. She understands fully that you don't want any contact from her. And if she engages in contact after you've made very explicit that you don't want it, you can file a request for protection order if that occurs.
Okay.
All right. Either one of you have any questions?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Ms. Pearson, I would suggest you go online to district court and get a copy of that order. As I said, it's differs slightly from the temporary order that you had been served, which said no contact with Ms. Aney's workplace. Now it says with Ms. Aney's vehicle.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Saldana, you and Ms. Glafke used to date, is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, when did you break up?
We broke up around early May of this year, 2026, but we still had active communications up until, I would say, early June. And these communications were kind of limited, just informal.
Okay. And at what point did you block calls from Ms. Glafke?
On the day of the events, which was primarily July 19th of this year, 2026.
And you maintain she continued to call you using different phone numbers, using spoof capability.
She does have two separate phones. And so once I blocked the first one, then she started to call me not only on social media, but using the other phone. However, I do believe the other phone was only used once to my primary phone. I also have two separate phones. Once I blocked her on my primary device, she tried to still follow up with me using my secondary phone number.
Okay. And has that continued?
It is not, no. Since I have blocked all the phone numbers and all the mutual social media, I have not been in contact with her, as it's just been other folks saying, hey, she reached out to me.
Other folks saying she reached out to you, or she reached out to other folks?
She reached out to other people trying to figure out my whereabouts.
Okay. So what's your primary concern if she's no longer directly trying to contact you? Tell me what is here.
My primary concern is that the way that she's reaching out to these people is mostly through that text message that I submitted in my evidence, clearly asking for my whereabouts, clearly asking to know who I'm talking with, where I am, who they are, and I honestly feel very unsafe. I try to be a social person, and I can't help but going out in public and just looking over my shoulder. I don't know who all she has tried to communicate with to figure out my whereabouts, and I would honestly defame me, um, in including the post that she made in that Facebook group. That Facebook group has 98,000 followers. I live in Rainier. The population in Rainier is 2,600, so almost 40 times more than the population of the town that I live in. I feel like I'm being put on, like, in the spotlight, and I feel very unsafe. I feel scared and paranoid, honestly.
Okay, so David Alexander is you?
Yes, sir. My Alexander is my middle name.
Okay. Ms. Klafke?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do not deny that I partook in excessive communication with him on the night of July 19th leading into July 20th, before I blocked him around midnight on July 20th. I do agree. I acknowledge that the way I was responding was not productive, and I apologize for profanity used in my messages. However, I do respectfully request that the protection order is denied, as I have maintained no contact with him since I blocked him on around midnight of July 20th. I haven't attempted to reach out to him at all since then. In fact, on the day that I was reaching out to him, I had known of his whereabouts because I was originally scheduled to attend the public event that he was going to that night. So I In my exhibits, you might be able to notice that I didn't actually ask anybody where his whereabouts are. I told them where his whereabouts were because I was at a public event. And I, as it is shown in my exhibits as well, I was reaching out less to find out who he was with and more because I was concerned for her safety based on my experiences with him. Some of them are highlighted in the exhibits that I submitted. And then in my exhibit D, there is a date on July 30th. That was 2 days, I believe, after the petition was filed on July 28th, where one of his mutuals that I was in contact with at the end of the night, I reached out to at the end of the night on July 19th, and she responded back to me a couple days later. She mentioned at the bottom of that exhibit D on July 30th that he was actually monitoring my mutual connections on my social media after I'm not able to block him because he blocked me first, and I'm unable to block him back on Instagram. And I privated my account. So it's made clear that he has either unblocked me and reblocked me in order to monitor my mutual connections after filing for this petition. And despite not being served or knowing any of that information about the petition, when I was given this information on July 30th, I have maintained no contact with him, and I have no interest in ever contacting him again, frankly.
Are you still trying to reach out and warn people he might be going out with?
No, and in fact, in fact have deleted the post that he's talking about in this Facebook group, which I also did want to clarify that was a private group. And I did follow all of the rules from the group. To my understanding, the group would not be able to function without abiding by the law, or it would get shut down. So if anything I said in there was inappropriate, I do apologize for that. But to my understanding, I didn't give any information that doxed his personal information or whereabouts. But yes, no, I have not tried any other attempts at communicating him or finding out anything and what he's doing in his life, who he's contacting, where he is. I have not been concerned with his whereabouts or anything concerned with him.
Mr. Saldana,
Yes, Your Honor.
anything else you want to say?
I feel like this whole incident has greatly affected my personal life. You know, before I went through the process of blocking her, by the way, I would like to point out, specifically on Instagram, if say I was the one who blocked her on Instagram, looking at the messages and looking at the profile, even though they are blocked, which I have maintained keeping her blocked since the 19th, you can still see anyone who is mutually following both of the accounts. And so that's how I was able to see that the third party in question for Exhibit D had begun following Ms. Glaefke after I had been talking with her. So that I have not been monitoring her as far as, like, I haven't been going out of my way to unblock her and reblock her. That is just as much as I knew about the situation. But through the incident on the 19th, there have been people that I rarely talk to that have been involved. Ms. Glaefke was very open about the fact that she went through my social media following list and reached out to as many of my female mutuals as possible. Even in our phone call, referencing some of my Facebook friends, my Instagram friends. And so I do feel very affected by this. This is a very scary situation. And again, I do feel as though there was doxing as a part of this. I live in a very small town. To post the town that I live in and post my whereabouts, post which cities I spend time in such a large group, it's very clear and direct that visibility was kind of the intention. But I also have no intention of keeping any kind of contact with Ms. Glafke. I want to be done with this.
And Ms. Glafke, sorry, I was mispronouncing your name earlier.
Yeah, it's okay.
How long has it been since you told me you've stopped basically communicating anywhere about Mr. Saldana? How long has that been?
About him or to him?
Either.
I,
Well, let's say both. You told me to him, it's been a while. So about him, how long has it been?
about him, I haven't, I did, from a couple of the people that I reached out to on July 19th, I ended up deleting all of my messages after that, because when I was blocking him that night, I decided to just get them out of my inbox from everybody who didn't respond that day, because I didn't want to put any more energy into the situation. So the only people I have contacted since then have been people who reached out with similar experiences, but we have not really been discussing him in his current state or anything. It's more been like peer support and kind of venting with a couple friends that I made through those interactions.
Okay, other than when he was attending concerts, have you notified anybody as to where he might be found?
Absolutely not, and I have no idea or no desire to know where his whereabouts are.
Anything else, Mr. Saldana?
Nothing that I can think of, Your Honor.
I agree with Ms. Glafke's comments that her reaction to the two of you breaking up was inappropriate, and she's recognized that. It sounds like the attempts to contact Mr. Saldana have come to an end. Both parties seem to agree on that. Mr. Saldana is concerned about Ms. Glafke's reaching out to others, and he's concerned that his safety is at risk because some of her initial postings said, here's where he's at, and go tell him what a schmuck he is, basically, and tell the woman they're not safe with him. I didn't see any direct threat in any of the things that I had seen posted. There wasn't a threat to do violence to him, just a expression of Ms. Glafke's feelings about Mr. Saldana. And the fact that it got posted on, say, Facebook, that's not a nice thing to do. Because of course we know what happens on social media. People make all kinds of conclusions without knowing all the facts. However, we don't regulate people's right to say mean things about other people. You may feel defamed, but there's no action for that under this statute. And if you're on social media, that's a risk you run. It's just a bigger platform. Ms. Glafke could go about telling friends, yeah, I broke up with this guy, man, what a jerk he was, and blah, blah, blah. The fact that it's broadcast to millions of people on Facebook doesn't change that. It's just the audience is broader. That's all that happens. So we don't restrict people's ability to say things like that. It's when it's directly aimed at threatening that person in a way that puts them in significant risk of harm, and the scope of the audience isn't sufficient for that purpose. So I'm satisfied that Ms. Glafke has suppressed her desire to tell the world what a bad guy Mr. Saldana is, and she says she's moved on, and I'll trust that's the case. So I'm going to deny the request for the order in this case. But Ms. Saldana, pardon me, Ms. Glafke, Mr. Saldana's made clear that he doesn't want you contacting him by just merely filing this request. So you should honor that.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I've signed that denial order. Ms. Glakey will receive a copy of it since she's here in court. And if you wish a copy, Mr. Saldana, you can reach out to your file in district court. All right, you can stay where I will get you a copy. Thank you, Mr. Saldana. You're done.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Have a great day.
You too. Mr. Langton or Ms. Peterson, which one of you wants to be the spokesperson today?
I will.
Okay, Ms. Peterson, two of you and Ms. Simmons are neighbors, correct?
Yes.
All right, and you're concerned about cameras that pick up what you're talking about, and you indicate that Ms. Simmons is responding through the voice activation or voice broadcast through the cameras and responding to your private conversations via her security system.
Yes.
Okay. And that she yells profanities at you. And what do you think is driving this? Is there some dispute between the parties?
I think that, I mean, I don't know, I guess from my perspective, I think she thinks we make too much noise. And that responds to that.
Okay. As in who's making too much noise?
Us, our dogs, our daughter. Sorry,
And how old's your daughter?
she's 6.
And has this been an ongoing issue for some period of time?
Since they moved in next door, in, I think, April.
Okay. And has there been any occasion in which you thought, well, geez, we're being too loud? Or is this just normal life and you think she's overly sensitive?
I think that we are living our normal lives. And, you know, we've had other neighbors that lived in that house prior to and never had a complaint. So I was unaware if we were making too much noise. So, you know, I've tried to be more quiet. I also work from home. We rehomed one of our dogs. We rescued him. He was a street dog, so just like not trained. So we rehomed him to help with the barking, and he's the one that is escaping regardless of how whatever I do to secure my backyard. So he's been rehomed. I feel like we've tried to be.
Okay, by rehomed, you mean the dog is no longer on your property?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that dog the dog that Ms. Simmons was most concerned about in your mind? And how long has it been gone?
A little over a month.
Ms. Cruz, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Ms. Simmons a question.
That's been your.
Thank you. Ms. Simmons, have you noticed a difference since that dog has been gone?
I have, yes, and I have not made a complaint since the last time I addressed it with them.
Okay. So I'll ask both of you individually. Ms. Peterson, do you think this is substantially resolve the problem between the two of you?
No, because since I've done that, she's still verbally like accosted us.
About what, if it's not the dog?
We were in our backyard. He was cleaning the barbecue and I was just setting up the table and she started filming us over the fence. So we asked her to stop filming us. And she just got loud and said, stop talking to me or I'm going to call the police. Leave me alone. Stop talking to me. And we said, okay, have a good day. But then she just kept saying, stop talking to me. Leave me alone. Stop talking to me. Leave me alone. So
When did this happen?
on July 24th.
So she was standing there with her phone filming.
Mhm.
And right. Ms. Cruz, do you have any questions for Ms. Peterson?
Yeah, on that day, July 24th, and we had submitted some video of this conversation. You received that, correct? Did you not start that conversation? You didn't keep telling her to have a good day after she said, stop talking to me.
And I said, have a good day and disengaged from the conversation.
Then she would say, stop talking to me, correct? After you said that, correct?
Yeah.
And then you would
And then
say,
I'll call the police.
okay. And then you would say, again, have a good day.
You didn't say it like that. Your recording does not show that either.
Okay. Can I have a question for Tashi.
Sure.
Okay. There was a conversation that you and my client had when that day you were mowing the lawn, right? Did you state somewhere in that conversation that you two were discussing a previous incident where my client had yelled out a window, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Which
When
incident are we talking about? The one when she yelled at me or when she yelled at my daughter and my niece?
Okay. There was an incident where, sorry for my language, something along the lines of it was in your petition. So something, shut the fuck up or something, correct? Okay. Did my client say multiple times that she was not talking to your daughter?
She said that,
Okay.
but then based off of what my wife and then what my neighbor also witnessed, that when
During this conversation, did she say that multiple times that she was not talking to your daughter?
she did.
Okay. And
And
did
then-
you say something along the lines of that your wife misinterpreted that?
That she may have misinterpreted.
Correct. Yes. Did you
Because
say?
because I was not there for that piece.
Okay, correct. You weren't there, so you didn't. You weren't there. You didn't know, correct? But did you say that your wife may have misinterpreted then who she was speaking to? Is that correct?
And I do want to preface that I never did give consent for being filmed during that time.
You were out in the. You were out in public. Okay. There's no expectation of privacy in your front yard. So it's how would you say during that conversation, did you tell my client, hey, I would appreciate, if we could have conversations like this about if something's wrong? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
If something is wrong, you can come to me and we can talk about it. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Did you not inform your wife that you said that? Because I think there's an allegation of her trespassing on your property after that. She came to your door, knocked on your door to talk to you. And it says in here that she's trespassing. Did you forget to tell your wife that
None of us were on the property at the time.
Correct, but did you tell previously to my client walking onto your property and knocking on the door to talk to you, did you tell her that you would accept communication, you'd prefer if communication went like that?
We never discussed what that would look like, but we did say
You did tell her that you would prefer a conversation.
a conversation.
A conversation, okay. There's an allegation here that my client made repeated calls to law enforcement and animal services. How many times have animal services contacted you?
3 times.
Okay, are you aware that there was one complaint?
I am now.
Okay. And during that conversation, Tashi, that you had with my client, did you admit, I think it's a black and white dog. Was that the dog that was rehomed?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you admit that you were having issues with the dog? The dog is smart, knows how to open the door, and
I did admit
unfortunately
to that, yeah.
would get out.
Yep.
Okay, so you knew that that was kind of an issue that you two were struggling with, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. You say here that my client's recording private conversations. Do you mean recording as in keeping these private conversations guess I'm confused. I haven't seen any proof of her recording private conversations.
Well, she recorded the conversation with my husband and she spoke to us twice through the speaker on her camera. So I assume that means she's, well, at least listening in the conversation.
Okay. Have you since seen where the cameras that my client has placed on her property, have you since seen where they're pointed?
Yes, one looks directly out the window on the side of my house and one looks into my backyard.
However, the one that you say is looking into your backyard, it is of her property, and unfortunately, some of your yard is going to get into that view, correct?
It's pointed directly over our fence, yes.
Based off of what we've submitted, there is no view pointing directly over your fence.
It's not what I saw in the screenshots of those cameras. I saw my full backyard.
Which one?
The one from her camera in the backyard.
Pointing only at your backyard. What attachment of mine was that? I do not recall any.
I don't know what number the attachment is.
Okay, Your Honor, I don't have any more questions for them. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
am I allowed to
Oh,
say
I have
anything?
one. Sorry, I have one last one.
Sure.
That situation where my client was saying she was not yelling at your kids, and you said she was that day. Did you, after that happened, did you walk onto her
I
property?
did not. It was at the edge of my property.
Did you walk over? You were mad, right? You were mad. You thought she was talking to your daughter.
I asked her not to speak to the kids like that. She doubled down and said, well, shut your fucking kids up. And
But I don't think that's anywhere in that your statement, right?
It is in my statement.
Okay,
And it's in my neighbor's statement as well.
but you went on
I
to,
did not
you
go
did not
onto
go
her
to her property?
Stayed on our side of the property.
Okay, Your Honor, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Ms. Peterson, you wanted to tell me something else?
I just wanted to reiterate that on the April 29th, that with the claim that she wasn't yelling at the kids, I had asked her to not speak to them like that, and she doubled down and did say, well, then shut your fucking kids up. And my neighbor, Dale Appersold, across the street, wrote a statement verifying that he witnessed that.
And Ms. Cruz, do you have questions for Ms. Simmons?
I do. Kelly, I think there is somewhat, I'm going to say two larger incidents in this case. The first one is an allegation of you yelling out of a window at the petitioner's daughter. Can you tell me about that day?
Yeah, I had been working in my office that day and had been hearing her dog in her backyard barking pretty profusely throughout the day. So I had heard her yelling outside of her garage, and I had opened my window because I was feeling overstimulated, and I had shouted out the window, "Shut up." At no time had I sworn at anyone. She then proceeded to come up and shout at me to stop speaking to her children that way. I let her know multiple times I had not addressed that toward children at all. I was addressing her and her dogs. And I had told her that she needed to, excuse my language, shut her fucking dogs up. And again, I was not speaking to her children in any way. She had walked onto my property shouting at me. I told her multiple times, you need to get off my property. You need to get off my property. You're trespassing. She didn't want to listen until I and my partner had both stated, you need to get off the property or we will call the police. She then walked back to her property and ushered her kids, who seemed fine, in the house. And that was the only interaction I had.
Okay, and then the second incident I want to talk about is an incident where one of the petitioners, Tashi, was out mowing the lawn. There was a conversation, correct, about that day?
Yeah, I had
Correct.
originally gone out there. I heard him playing really loud music from inside my home. And so I had gone out there to talk to him about it and then address the issue with his dogs getting loose. And as I had talked to him about that, everything seemed copacetic between us. We had agreed that we would converse with each other in this way from now on, and that if I did have any further issues with the dogs, that I could address it to him the way that I had handled it. As I said, I addressed the music, his dogs barking, as well as them getting loose at that time.
So would you say the conversation ended where you two are not necessarily friends, but it was an understanding that you two could talk about it?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And the last incident that I want to have you testify about is where the petitioners are stating that you held your phone camera up over the fence and what you were recording them privately and there was a conversation. Tell me about who started the conversation and how it went.
I had walked outside and stood on my patio stairs, and I was just on my phone out there, not recording anything. Tashi had looked over his fence at me a couple of times and then started saying, I would consider it fairly sarcastically, "Have a good day." I had asked him, please do not talk to me, to leave me alone. He did not. He proceeded to continue to talk to me. He started talking to me about my cameras. I asked him again, please stop talking to me, leave me alone. I'm not recording you. It's my yard. Catherine then joined in and had said, I'm always out there recording them. I'd let her know I'm not recording any private areas. They also have cameras that I don't have an issue with. They proceeded to continue to talk to me, and I proceeded to ask them to leave me alone and no longer talk to me. It continued until I eventually just decided to go back into the house, where I proceeded to then have a panic attack, unfortunately.
Okay. Those are the incidents that I want my client to testify about, Your Honor. Any other ones are in my client's statement, but at this time I'd like to reserve a closing. Right now.
No,
Okay.
I'm just looking at some evidence here after I've heard the testimony. So I'll be with everybody shortly. So let me understand, Ms. Peterson, on behalf of you and Mr. Langton, your primary concern are probably two. One is the interactions you have with Ms. Simmons, and the second would be the cameras.
Yes.
And Ms. Simmons, I'm gathering your primary concerns are noise. Is that accurate?
It was noise, and then the dog coming
Okay,
into
the
my yard.
dog's right. The dog's gone. So what's your concern now?
Well, we were stolen from within the first few months of us moving in, and that is one of the reasons I had originally put up my security cameras, was to have better coverage of the street, as well as my front yard. And then I had installed the camera in the backyard for the dogs and then the barking, but I've stopped since recording any of the dogs. They're just now for security purposes.
Okay, but what's your concern now? Now that the dog is gone, do you have a concern with Ms. Peterson and Mr. Langton and their family?
No, I don't personally have any concerns with them. Mine would be security purposes, since I was stolen from.
Okay, and to be clear, you're not accusing them of stealing.
No, this was completely separate. Yeah, from that. This was in June while I was out of town. We had stuff stolen from our property.
And is there any purpose for you maintaining the camera on the tree?
My yard is open. It's not fenced. And so I have a back door that's over there. So it shows if anybody can come into my property, either from the reserve that's open behind it or from the side of my yard that is open. We're trying to work on getting a fence in the meantime.
Okay, that one seems a little intentional to me, just looking at it. That's a bothersome camera. I don't, you're entitled to have the cameras on your house. They're providing security that, the view may spill over into neighbors' property. The one on the tree seems intentional. So I'm having a concern about that.
The one
All
on
right.
the tree was put there for the dog specifically.
Right, and the dogs,
I can move the camera if needed, but I would still like to have a camera in my backyard
I
somewhere.
I might suggest you find a better location that doesn't make your neighbors think that you're watching everything they do.
I can certainly do that. If I had known that was an issue before, I would have moved it.
Well, they talk about it in their petition, so I think being a good neighbor, you would want to respond to that. In all the years of doing these cases, and cameras come up a lot, it's the first time I've seen a camera in a tree. So that's like I said, it seems intentional. All right. Is there anything else you folks wanted to say?
Is it okay if I just read a short statement? Thank you for taking the time to hear us today and providing an opportunity to speak. We are asking the court to look at the pattern of conduct as a whole, rather than viewing any one incident in isolation. Our evidence and hers shows a series of increasingly concerning interactions over several months of yelling, profanity, recording and monitoring us, recording inside of our home from the street, confronting us with hostility, and using cameras to monitor me, my husband, and child. Something important to mention is that most of the events in our evidence are not disputed by Ms. Simmons. In her declaration, she acknowledges yelling and using profanity on April 29th and June 17th, as well as recording that conversation with Tashi. Repositioning and maintaining her cameras that view our property. She also repeatedly describes herself as becoming frustrated, overwhelmed, and overstimulated. And while we're not asking the court to judge her feelings, we are asking that the court consider the repeated conduct that results from them. I have previously stated I've done my best to try to remedy any issues with the dogs. And finally, we're not asking the court to decide on every disagreement or prevent Ms. Simmons from securing her property. We're only asking for a boundary that allows us all to live peacefully. As she says, we haven't had any contact since the 24th, and that's all we're asking for, is that the no contact order goes in place to maintain that so we can all enjoy each of our homes peacefully.
Ms. Cruz?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that there are some key dates in this case. Sorry. The first being incident where my client yelled out the window. My client said she did yell at a window. There was testimony that on that day, I'm not yelling at your kids. I'm not yelling at your kids. There's testimony that the petitioner walked onto my client's property. I would certainly say if that did occur, that they're not afraid of my client. There's some testimony then about a day where one of the petitioners, Tashi, was mowing. And I don't know if Your Honor had a chance to view the entirety or any of that conversation. But it seemed like they were getting somewhere. She said, "Here's my frustrations. You have a dog. They're barking. There's a video of the dogs barking too, and it's pretty incessantly. It's happening at 4 and 5 a.m. and it's there's quite a few of them, or there was at that time." So she said, "Hey," and we also submitted pictures of their dog actually on my client's property as well as in the street. I think my client luckily had not been somebody else with a firearm. The dog kind of looks like a fox. I think that they're lucky it didn't get shot. But nonetheless, my client's, "Hey, I'm getting frustrated. You have this dog, it's getting out." Could she have come at them a little bit more relaxed? Yes, but she's getting tired of it. So she said, "Here's my concerns." She never stepped foot onto their property. And during that conversation, Tashi had admitted, "Hey, I think maybe, I wasn't there for that first incident. It's possible that my wife could have taken it, misinterpreted," was his word. And she stated multiple times during that, "I was not talking to your kids. I just want the dogs to stop." They had a conversation about the dog getting out. Tashi had said, "Yes, it's a smart dog. It knows how to open the door. It knows how to get out. It's something, we will try to work on it. We'll try to work on it." I didn't know that they have since rehomed the dog, so the dog is gone. I think that would take care of a majority of everything. The only thing that has happened after that is a conversation over the fence. And Your Honor, if you've watched or listened to that audio, it was started by the petitioners, the argument. And all you can hear my client say is, stop talking to me. She's frustrated. She's clearly frustrated. And they go, in a joking and autistic manner, have a good day. And it is like that. I'm not making it worse than it is. I think it's clear they're not afraid of her. And then they went on, I believe it was that day or the next day, to come file this protection order. But she says, stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. And it's, have a good day. Have a good day. That's not being afraid of my client. And anything that's poking her, that's pushing her buttons because they know she's frustrated. I think here what we have is two neighbors. They don't like each other. And I think all too often this court sees cases where neighbors just don't like each other. And then they run to the court and ask for a protection order when I don't think that that's necessary. During the conversation where Tashi was mowing, he had said, I would like if we could have conversations like this. This does a lot more than anything else, any of the other encounters that they've had. So what did my client do? She walked over to knock on the door. Nobody answered, whether they were home, I don't know. And now they're saying she was trespassing. So she was trying to do what he asked. So first of all, I don't think there's a course of conduct here. I think if we're saying yelling out the window is one of them, I think we could say, okay. I don't think the conversation where he was mowing, I don't think that is harassment. It ended just fine. That they don't have to be friends, but they can be acquaintances. And it surely ended that way. I don't think the argument over the fence where they say she was recording, they're clearly being pushy during that conversation. I don't think they're afraid of her. I think if anything, we have her yelling out a window saying, shut up. And I do not think that alone meets course of conduct. And I also do not think that they're in substantial emotional distress if the last conversation that they had, they're poking her buttons. So I don't think, first of all, I don't think a protection order is necessary. I think that they're adults and can get it figured out. I think that's also asking a lot of people who come to this court. I also think it doesn't meet the legal definition, Your Honor. So I'm asking to find that. And she heard today, hey, we don't want the camera pointed. Fine, I bet it will be moved today, the camera in the tree. I don't think they really need to have any more further communication. And if so, I hope that the petitioners feel like they can knock on her door to have a conversation. And I hope that my client feels that she can knock on their door to have a conversation. I don't think we need to be here today. So based off of that and the fact that I don't believe it meets a course of conduct, nor that there's substantial emotional distress, I'm asking for Your Honor to dismiss this action.
All right, thank you. Hold on just a second. Mr. Langton, go ahead. You said you had something.
Oh, no, that was my father-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. So I agree with Ms. Cruz in the sense that the animal has been rehomed, so that I suspect was probably the primary instigator of the conflict between the neighbors here. But it doesn't seem to be the only one. It has taken on other dimensions. Of particular import to me are their statements from non-associated parties, Mr. Abersold, Mr. Slagle, and I don't know whether it's Mr. or Ms. Fenton. But you have neighbors weighing in, basically saying that their belief is that Ms. Simmons was inappropriate in her dealings with Ms. Peterson and Mr. Langton. And that tells me a lot when people who are not named parties in a case are weighing in. And if it was just one, I would be somewhat circumspect about that. But three different folks, and then Mr. Peterson's comments about when he was over power washing the driveway, and Ms. Simmons, apparently, according to his statement, using the speaker on her camera to tell him he couldn't come back or shouldn't come back or something like that. Ms. Simmons is being too intrusive into the lives of Ms. Peterson and Mr. Langton, and because of that, I'm going to order Ms. Simmons to have no contact with that family, with Ms. Peterson, Mr. Langton, and I'll just go ahead and make it formal. To take that camera in the tree down. You can have your other security cameras up. That's fine. Maintain the security of your home. You're entitled to do that, but that camera is inappropriately placed and you're to have no contact with them. This order, folks, will be in effect for 1 year from today's date. If you want it renewed, you have to come back to court and ask for it to be renewed. But hopefully at this point, this will resolve this issue and two of you will figure out ways, or two families will figure out ways to coexist.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your
And
Honor.
I want to make a couple of the points. Ms. Simmons is entitled to, it's not likely to happen now, make complaints to animal services. We can't stop somebody from doing something like that. Anybody has the right to do that. And secure, as I said, security cameras are okay. I don't find that Ms. Simmons trespassed onto your property. I find that she came there, thinking she was responding to a request to have further communication. So those aren't the basis for why I'm issuing this order. It's the nature of the contact that has occurred that has been observed by neighbors, which is really the driving factor for me in this case. All right. I'll need a copy, give both parties a copy of this order shortly.
Your Honor, since they are directly next to each other, I know that a lot of times when that occurs, and I'm not sure what the court wants to do in the situation, but can we just have do not go onto the grounds of instead
There will
of
not be a distance restriction.
requirement? Mhm.
All right, I've signed the order under those terms. There is no distance restriction. Ms. Simmons, you're just not to go onto the property of your neighbors, have no contact with them.
I have a
And-
question on that, sir.
Okay, yeah, hold on to that question for a second. And I want that security camera down by close of business tomorrow.
Okay.
The one that's on the tree.
Okay.
All right, your question?
As far as using my yard goes, my yard is much higher up than their yard, so they can see me most of the time in my yard. How should I go about using my yard? Am I allowed to be there if they're outside as well? Or as long as I stay in my yard, or?
You can use your yard. I've just said you can't have contact with them. So if you're in your yard, they're in their yard, and you're just not to yell at them, flip them off, have any conversation with them.
Yeah,
Doesn't restrict your ability to use your property.
okay. And then as far as the camera goes, am I still allowed to have it in my backyard, just not within that area?
Just make it clear that it's not pointed at the Peterson Langton backyard.
Okay. Thank you.
And Ms. Cruz will get a copy of this order and she'll have it for you, and we'll hand Ms. Peterson, Mr. Langton their copy. And I'll go ahead and say with Ms. Simmons still on here, the fact that I have entered the protection order. Ms. Simmons also has made clear, I'm not entering an order on this, but she doesn't want to hear from the two of you. So if you have complaints, maybe reach out to Ms. Cruz, who could relay them to Ms. Simmons, but you're not to have any direct contact with Ms. Simmons. That's not an order, but I strongly suggest is the petitioners in this case should follow that. No.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Have a good day, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. You too. Feel better.
Yeah.